There was a kind of a, I want to say kind of a story because this was a bit of a non-story for me about Russell Wilson, in an interview saying that he wants more say in front office decisions and he's tired of getting hit. He was the most sacked quarterback in the league this season, and I think he was in the top 3 last season as well. He's been sacked over 400 times in his career, which is entirely too many. Even for, Russell Wilson, who is a pretty mobile quarterback, that seems like a lot. And so Russell Wilson was doing the interview. He was talking about how he wanted some more protection, and there was some underlying tone of him wanting to ask for more control or more say in what the franchise is doing on the football field. And, Russell Wilson isn't the first person to say something along the lines of that this season. And it all really comes back to Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson is artificially creating an NBA-esque Me Too movement in the NFL. A new wave of a Me Too movement. There's no really other better way than I can describe it than that. I think players look around the league and they see what's happening to Deshaun Watson in Houston, and it's inspiring them to have their voices heard as well. Because let's get something straight. Like, regardless of where you think Deshaun Watson is going to go, regardless of what you think of the situation, what you think of Cal McNair as an owner, what do you think of the team president? I forget his name. He just actually resigned last night. Whatever you think about the team, whatever you think about the owner, whatever you think about the situation as a whole in Houston, most people can agree that Deshaun Watson is being treated absolutely horribly in this, and he has every right to want out of his contract. And so we as fans can artificially look at that and agree with Deshaun Watson and want the best for him. And I think other players around the league are starting to take notice of that and are starting to speak up as well with how little say they have with the direction of the franchise. And Russell Wilson is a great example of that. And now you heard Jared Goff, in his introductory press conference with the Lions say something along the lines of, "It's great to have a team that actually values me." And I think with what we were talking about with the NFL in terms of the QB carousel that's going on right now, with how many quarterbacks can potentially be switching teams, it also begs the question: at what point do quarterbacks, probably the most important position on the football field, at what point do they get say in the direction of their franchise? At what point does an organization say, "Okay, you've passed the litmus test. Now we can bring you into the room and see where you want to go forward"? Where is that line? Is it 3 seasons? Is it a couple of playoff appearances? Is it an MVP caliber season? Where does that line? Where is that line in the sand? And is that line shifting? I think really good fundamental questions that we should be asking. Because as I said, there is no league like the NBA when it comes to player power. But I think what we see developing, especially with what's happening in Houston with Deshaun Watson, is this new wave of a Me Too movement with players asking for more power and more say in the decisions of the franchise. Something that up until, maybe a couple of seasons ago really was never a thing in the NFL. And, to say that, Russell Wilson is unhappy in Seattle, he's going to ask for a trade, I think that's absolutely stupid. I think Russell Wilson is probably pretty pleased in Seattle, considering he's, won a Super Bowl, been to 2, he's been a perennial playoff contender. I think he's probably just fine. But regardless, if somebody like Russell Wilson is feeling the need to ask more, or need to kind of hint and suggest that he wants more say in the franchise's decisions, and he's won a Super Bowl, where is that line? And obviously that line is going to be different for each different owner in the NFL, but it's really interesting as to where that line is and if the line is moving because of this new Me Too movement with Deshaun Watson. I don't know if I should call it a Me Too movement, because obviously the connotation of what the Me Too movement actually is in pop culture is something a lot more sinister and something a lot more important than just playing a football game. But to see all these quarterbacks, come out and say, hey, look, I've done really well for you. I feel like I should be able to get more power and more say in the franchise's decisions. It's kind of an interesting developing trait this offseason because of what's transpiring in Houston, and I wonder if that is going to start duplicating and snowballing as seasons go on, and the NFL starts having players having a lot more power in the decisions of the franchise, like we're seeing in the NBA. Like, I wonder when we'll get the day when there's going to be a James Harden situation in which the superstar has gotten everything that he could ever desire. He's been treated well by the franchise, but purely by the motivation to win, he's going to force himself out of that situation. I can't think of a situation that has ever been like a James Harden situation in the NFL so far. And you could say, well, maybe that's happening right now, but it's like, yeah, but Deshaun Watson has been treated horribly by the Texans, and he has a right to go out. And that gives him the power over the Texans. It's not the fact that the Texans have given Deshaun everything that he can to win, and he still wants to move out. It's the fact that they've given him nothing, and he wants to move out. So I wonder when we'll get to the point, or if we'll get to the point where there's a player or a quarterback that has that much power in the NFL to where he's gotten everything that he's needed. The franchise has been compliant with his demands or his askings or his desires, and he still has the power to go up and leave the franchise. I wonder if this is the grassroots for something like that. Because right now, again, with stuff like Deshaun and Jared and Russell Wilson, it's very innocent right now. It's very like, yeah, it's like smart kid raises his hand in class and he gets the answer right, and everybody's like, oh, I got that answer too, kind of thing. Everybody's slowly raising their hands and saying, oh, I see what's going on over there, and I feel the same way, and I feel like I should say something about it. A really interesting development, I think. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this segment from the Hard Headed Sports Podcast. You've heard what I've had to say, now I'm interested to hear what you think as well. If you enjoyed this highlight from the show and want to watch more highlights from the show as they come out after the show's completion, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon.